we are going to be interviewing one of the Dune devs. Now, I was very impressed with the beginning of the game, but it turns out that the game is actually pretty cool. There's lots of very unique mechanics in it. It very much is Dune fingerprinted, and in a way that was really enjoyable. The first dungeon kind of sold it on me completely. I know nothing about what comes after that. The only thing I know of is that I've heard that there's like this endgame PvP system, and it's a little rough. So I'm interested to hear like what the plans are, kind of like any questions we have, which is gonna be cool. So yeah, man, I'm ready for this. Let's do it. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Bit drained. Just did a long, long stream.
Yeah, that was pretty long. That was pretty long.
I mean, not as. I mean, I'm talking to a pro here, so I think I'm.
Well,
probably you're laughing at my pathetic, 1.5 hour stream.
Well, the difference is I get to just sit around and act like a fool. You have to actually do things and convey information. It's a very different experience. I would like to just say how it's incredibly refreshing to have developers that I feel really bring that kind of human element to their job, especially what you said at the end of that.
I want my team to be together making games for a long time, right? So for me, this is like, I'm nervous about that, right? Like the gaming industry is not a safe place anymore, right? It's not easy to guess what's going to be successful.
I mean, really appreciate you guys being so kind of transparent and open about that. I mean, those are really valid, real concerns. We live in a very interesting day and age, especially with game dev. And it's good to know that there's people that are kind of rooted in that. So we appreciate it.
Yeah, no. Thanks. Yeah, no, I mean, it's the reality, right? Like we build these teams, and this industry can be so, I don't know, cruel in a way. And I don't mean like in the sense, it's just that making games is hard, right? Every game's a miracle. People talk about that all the time. And I think it's like, you make 10,000 choices along the way and you try to make the right ones. And some games just don't make the right ones, and that's, it's just sad every time, right? So yeah, it's what makes me nervous about launching, right? It's just like, did we make the right choices? But the beta made me happy in that sense, in that I feel like some of the things that we fought for, like it would have been so easy. So many times along the way that I got feedback from people like, make the sandworm easy. Don't let it take people's stuff. Right, like don't have that be a full loss moment. And I had to fight, like as a creative director, I had to stand there and say no, right? And my game director right beside me, leaning over and going, "Don't give in, don't give in. It doesn't matter," right? And like, but these are the battles you fight because, And so yeah, it's like we made these 10,000 decisions, and we're about to find out the consequences. And I'm nervous about how it's going to go, but I hope it pays off, right? That's it. And it's because it isn't just me. It's not my big ugly mug that, it's like all the people on this team. It's all of their work.
And how big is your team now?
I mean, we started with 30 people, and I think we're up to around 400-ish across the board.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's gotten big, and that's mostly growth across the last 5 years, right? So
yeah. So here's the thing. You guys have been great, especially you. You guys have been great about going out there, doing interviews, been really getting out there and being transparent and very genuine and real, which I think we all very much appreciate. I actually have a lot of questions that I'd love to not only get answers on, but also kind of get your design thinking on. Like, what's your perspective on it?
Yeah.
So
100%.
Going back to the beginning here. So one big thing I kind of wanted to get into is the design thinking behind the Lansrad system. Now, I am a previous Guild Wars 2 player. I played on release. And in that system, there was in that game at the beginning, there was a system called the orbs. And basically what you could do is go out into the PvP area, accomplish goals for your side, and then if you were able to retrieve the orbs, it made you stronger. Now, I noticed in the rewards for the Lansrad system, I saw things like 30% extra melee damage, some big bonuses. And I'm assuming, first quick question, all of those bonuses go into PvP, right?
It's all the faction.
Okay.
So everybody is aligned on the entire world, not just in PvP.
Okay.
But it goes into PvP as well. But yes.
So the thinking here is in Guild Wars 2, they ended up removing that system because it was making the winners stronger. And what it was doing is making it so like they just kept winning. There was no system to counterbalance it because they were gaining strength by winning. And this kind of ties into that question that somebody asked about the unique weaponry, like, how that plays into it. So my thinking is, my question is, how are you counterbalancing that? Right now, from what we saw, the winners are getting stronger. So what are the losers getting?
So I alluded to like that we have sort of a balancing system that runs a bit behind the scenes. So if a faction is becoming too dominant, there's changes in the tasks for the other side. They become like
non-PvP related kind of thing?
So none of the tasks right now in the Lansrad are 100% PvP. Just to be clear about that, right? I don't think that was obvious, maybe.
I definitely thought it was mostly PvP. It sounded like the end game thing.
It's kind of the opposite, I would say. What every Lansrad square on that board is asking for about 70,000 points. The way you achieve those points is through multiple different things. One of them is taking a control point in the deep desert, which is a PvP. And then you earn 10 points per hour that you hold a control point, right?
Okay.
Adding up.
Okay.
But there's another task under that, which is deliver 5 fully crafted ornithopters to the quartermaster. And that gets you 700 points per ornithopter delivered. So people who like to craft and participate, it has nothing to do with PvP for them. It's just that they have to go out, mine resources, and craft these ornithopters to deliver. And so there's multiple tasks per Lansrad square that can be achieved. All of them contain some PvE tasks. All of them have a PvP component as well. So you can choose your activity. Okay, our faction has a 33% damage bonus. Everybody in our faction has that this week, this Lansrad period. And the other faction might choose to focus on the non-combat tasks because it will help them, right?
So theoretically, someone could join a guild as a support member that, let's say, has some accessibility things that make it so they can't do PvP because, one of their hands isn't working properly. And they could still completely participate every week by just focusing on the non-combat stuff.
100%. That is the goal, right?
Okay.
The system works so that people can be involved. Yeah.
I like that. Another quick thing going to the unique weapons thing. I think there may have been an unintentional if then in there that made it sound like it wasn't as nearly cool as I think it is. Because at one point somebody said, will unique weapons give somebody a sense of power? And the response was, no, unique weapons aren't that powerful. Don't worry about it, essentially. But then that made me go but wait a second. Don't I want the carrot on the stick of getting the unique weapons? Aren't they significantly more powerful and that's why I want them? So I was wondering what exactly are unique weapons? Are we talking gameplay differences or just updated versions of powers?
So I think it's one of the things that our economy team has done a good job with is trying to make the unique weapons actually feel like they do different things, not just add stat, right? Add stat is again, I call us morons because we try to do hard things. This is one of them. So instead of add stat,
I've been here since Anarchy Online. I know you guys bite off so much more than you can chew. It's great.
We always do. So this is so one of the things is the assault rifle you get. There's a unique assault rifle type that you get, and it's called the Stammer Shot. I think I was playing with it yesterday, so it's fresh in my mind. The Stammer Shot fires 3 bullets instead of a burst. It fires 3 bullets on its own, so it has a completely different.
3 in 1, not
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Right, exactly. So it feels very different as a weapon. It's a unique weapon. It acts and behaves differently to other things, right? And then there's you get. So all of the uniques in the game have kind of some level of this, how does it change gameplay a little bit as well? They definitely feel different and unique, which is kind of the point.
Yeah.
And that's always been the goal. But yeah, so, people will want the uniques. I'm not saying that. I think what we're saying is, I think Scott was pointing out that the PvE content in the game does not require you to have the highest tier weapons to do it right now. It's not so to take a classic MMORPG example, right? In World of Warcraft, you go and you get the best dungeon gear so you can run the first basic raids. Run those raids to get the extra small amount of percentage so you can continue running raids to get better and better at raids. That's not how we've set things up here right now. So I think what Scott was trying to say was that you don't need it, but people will always want it because that's just.
I was going to say now I believe you, and I'm gonna let you finish. But as a PvE player, I do need the best gear. In fact, I need the best PvP gear on my PvE character because I do.
Yep, and that's
okay.
Where I think people are scared, but I think it's going to work out, right? That's how it is, yeah.
Okay. Very cool, very cool. So here, this deep desert concept. is incredibly interesting to me. You know, I go back and I think of like some almost like Darkness Falls stuff from DAOC and kind of how that's working with the washing back and forth. In your vision, how much stuff in the deep desert is like one-time use kind of stuff? And let me explain what I mean by that. If I have a mechanic in a game like a deep desert, I want to make, one of the first things I do in my mind is I make a checklist. I say, okay, here's the stuff I need to do. So I know I can go and get the repeatable harvested like spice. I know I can go and get, but I noticed that there were like lots of other objectives spawning on there. Things like derelict caves and skill points and stuff like that. Is there going to be a way for me to know like how much of the deep desert I've done? Like something I can like a running tally of, you know, what I can need to do each week and what's left to do and stuff like that? Or is it more of just this big mysterious, you guys are just going to let players figure it out kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's going to be players figuring it out. Oh. That's kind of the, right. So there's like, you won't know what drops in what eco lab, right? In the beginning, you'll have to go and chart that out. And then that layout might not come up again may never come up again, right? That's kind of the goal, to have infinite exploration, not
That's a worthy goal.
Yeah. So the plan is to try and like, and as I was saying, we keep sprinkling things in so it becomes more and more over time, because I think like what we have is like, I always say this to people, and it's kind of a cop out, but it's a true statement. The game we're launching is the worst the game will ever be. Like that's the reality, if you know what I mean, right? Like because the game you launch with in a live game, and then you keep adding to it, and I know you've said this about Funcom in the past as well. We keep working on our games till they're better.
You do,
right? So our game will launch, the launch version of the game. I think it's pretty good, but it's still going to be the worst version because we're going to keep working on it.
Let's just not hope for a catastrophic patch, but I'm with you.
Yeah. You know what
I know what you're talking about.
I guess what I'm trying to say
is... It moves forward. It keeps moving forward. You keep building. It keeps building.
My job is to be optimistic, so I'm
You're doing a great job.
I'm assuming we're not going to have catastrophic patches. But like, the Deep Desert in the same sense is also like, this is the most barren it will ever be because we're going to keep adding to it, right, over time. So I don't think players will have a checklist. I think people will build them very quickly.
Yeah. So
I see already in closed beta, people are already like coming up with ways to show off their deep desert plan to other people already. So yeah.
And that's where this interesting kind of schism happens, because like I look at the world map of the starting area as my solo player, and I'm seeing 0 of 1 intel here. You've gotten 2 of 3 things here, and I'm going, oh man, I want to do map completion. Like I want to crawl through this game. I want to 100% it. But then you come up to a mechanic like the deep desert, and you can't play the game that way. There's no 100%ing it. There's no, like, when you go out and explore, you can't really go out with an objective because you don't know what's there. So
unless you're in the loop, right?
Yeah,
and your guild buddy's gone and made you a sync chart, and you log in when you can play, and you open the chest, and there's a bunch of sync charts there, and it's every sector of the deep desert mapped, and you're like, okay, well now I know there's 5 eco labs in the deep desert this week. And I'm looking for unique schematics that our guild might want to sell on the exchange, so that's what we're going to do today.
Cool.
Right?
So the idea is just the deep desert's going to have this giant pool of resources you can't get anywhere else, and you basically need to. Okay, that's very cool. I like that. So you can make those lists. It's just more on kind of the private side, and you guys aren't going to do it for us. Makes sense. I like it.
Yeah, we're not going to do the 100% completion thing like we do in Haggard Basin, because we.
That's exactly what I was wondering. If there was like a system like that for the deep desert. Cool. So
there's not. Yeah.
Here's some other questions about the deep desert that I'm very interested in. So there's all sorts of things we could talk about mega guilds and mega griefing guilds. And of course, we have guild limit set to 32, but players will find a way around that. They'll have a 32 guild of officers, and each one manages their own 32-player guild, etc., etc. So now, granted, it's going to be really hard for them to all get on the same server, I'm sure. So the idea of, but here's my question. When I'm a solo player, and I do want to participate in this, am I going to have tools to hide myself, to stay in stealth, to reduce how far enemies can detect me? Like, you guys said there was ratting. Is there mechanics for that? Or is it just like, man, I hope I get lucky and don't get within 300 meters of an ornithopter and have an icon pop up above my head kind of thing?
Yeah, so I mean, mechanics are mechanics, right? Like, there's deliberate decisions like we made about like not having name tags and things like that. You can hide against the backdrop of the world because you aren't visible to players. right? Like it's not like, and then I'm sort of getting ahead of myself, but when we're working in some of the Fremen stuff in the future, there'll definitely be ways to do what the Fremen do, bury yourself in sand and things like that.
Okay.
So there'll be mechanics around that are coming. But I don't think like there's a specific like we don't have an invisibility mode or a stealth mode that hides you right now. It's more about like how do you approach entering the deep desert? How do you make sure that like it's interesting in closed beta because there's a lot of discussions around these kind of tactics and how people do things. It's also people. It's interesting because a lot of people who don't go to the deep desert complain about the deep desert, which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Right? Because people say, "Oh, I just don't want to get ganked," and then other people are like, "I go there all the time and nobody's around. I don't know what you're talking about because like." Because I can sneak out and get things and come back. So the rat playstyle exists. I don't think we've done anything specifically to support it. So I'll, freely admit that. But I think that the game lends itself, and the decision we made to make this really big. This is why we even developed server meshing tech, the game, to have this very large space, because very large space means that like we want people like the general core of the philosophy for PvP in our game is fight over things. Don't go around ruining other people's like time. And yes, I can't prevent it, right? That's just a mentality some people have. But that's why we have spice blowers that are giant and you can see them in the distance, because we're drawing people to a location. That's why we have control points. We're drawing people to a location. We want people to be drawn to locations, and we want them to fight each other over those things. What we're trying to do is support people who don't want to be involved. Not only sneaking in and getting out, but also I think one of the things that we've done that is fairly consistent across the game is that we've made player mobility very high. So you can be chased, you can escape, especially if you're like a solo player with a boosted.
It's one of my favorite parts of the game. Even just the jetpack and the grappling hook, man. That's a whole different level of mobility.
Exactly. Yeah, that stuff's been fun. Yeah, and fun watching people play with it. Like I know you're friends with Chris Sacriel. Mm-hmm. He was just right into it straight away. As soon as he found that in the game, it was crazy.
Yep. I completely see it. So the deep desert, do all resources spawn and or respawn in the deep desert? Or on every refresh, is there ever something that can only be used or picked up once?
Yes, sorry. During the week, things respawn.
Okay.
But they won't show up in other weeks. If that makes sense.
Are there any mechanics that are going to make it so major guilds feel a need to be on the second the servers come up from a wipe, outside of taking capture points to earn ambient stuff over time?
I think the scouting is probably the biggest one.
Cool. Probably a good way to make money too, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Getting the maps made. Yeah, I'm assuming that'll be the first wave of people into the desert, right?
I have to admit,
scouting mapping.
I got a little nervous when you were like, yeah, once we take this capture point, we're going to make it for our team. And I was like, wait a second, you take the capture point and then it immediately works like for the rest of the week? I was like, is the server going to reset and then everyone's just going to have to go get capture points for the next hour? But no, that sounds great. So the way it works is it actually just does points over time based on who holds it.
Yes.
Cool.
Yep. Exactly that.
All right. Awesome. So a few other here and there questions. Can you hold a buggy on an ornithopter transport and shoot from the turret? Because if the answer is no, we're gonna need that.
Yeah, I don't know if I've tested that specific one. I know that you can. Might be able to. I actually haven't tested it, so that's a really good question. I know that you can, for example, on sand bikes, sit in the passenger seats and shoot. You can shoot out of the buggy when you're sitting there. You can shoot out of.
Oh my god!
So you can do those things. I have never tested the specific scenario of like picking up a buggy with a turret on top and firing at people.
Because see, now I'm thinking of 5 ornithopters, 5 turreted, just tanks flying. Oh, perfect.
Yeah. That's the stuff that's the sandbox stuff that's fun that people are going to find when the game launches. Right?
Yeah.
That's the stuff that I mean, I don't have an answer, but it's entirely possible.
It's a living game, right? It can always be added if it's not there.
Yeah. I don't think it's impossible.
Awesome.
It's probably there. Because we are very lenient about those kind of things because we think it's fun to like make sure that. What was it? The rule of cool. I like that. Exactly. The rule of cool, the rule of fun. That's good. Oh, one thing I did notice. So in the ornithopters, they had the same sand detector as you would have when you're on the ground.
I also noticed.
Scanner, yeah.
I also noticed some of those worms go pretty high into the sky. Do they ever go after flying things?
Yes,
they do.
Yeah,
so they'll jump out of the ground and like try to get something in the air.
I mean, they won't fully emerge, so you won't.
They will like jump out like a dolphin. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll come up. They'll come up after you if you're too close to the sand for sure. So
Very
don't fly
cool.
too close.
Okay, well that's awesome. We saw in that presentation a very cool group coordinated spice harvesting in deep desert. One person thumping, one person harvesting, transporters, guard scouts. Is there anything like that in the PvE version of the dark desert or the deep desert, or is that only available in the PvP version?
That's in the PvP area.
Only
where the big spice flows are. Yeah. Okay. The PvE part of the deep desert is all up on the shield wall. So it's in the rocky zone.
Oh, okay. So there's not going to be any worms. It's going to be a lot different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of according to law, right? Like the shield wall stops the Coriolis storm.
Yeah.
And prevents, like, that's where they all live in the books. They live on the other side of the shield wall where it's safe. So that area, the PvE area, is the safe strip. It's still big, right? It's still like, again, 24 kilometers wide and whatever, a couple of kilometers high. So it's still quite a big space at the bottom of the map for PvE to be done.
Very cool. Very cool. So you talked a little bit about these instances that can spawn in the deep desert and how they were PvE in the instances. You can zone in as a party, that kind of stuff. But one thing so to get to the instances, you have to take your party through the PvP zone, right?
Yes. And the instances are full PvP as well.
Oh, wait, I thought the instances were per player. So you're saying
they're open dungeons.
Oh, I totally missed that. I thought it was like Anarchy Online style little instances you were going into. Oh, I didn't realize it was like they're all full PvP dungeons.
Yes, open. Yeah, exactly. Open dungeon spaces. Yep.
Oh, okay. Well, that's certainly more interesting. I first thought they were PvE only, which was why it was a little confusing. You had to go through the PvP zone to get to the PvE, but that makes a lot more sense. So that is kind of the Darkness Falls situation. Okay. That's very cool. Yeah. All right. So that, and I'm assuming that's where all the best loot is going to be.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. So as we talk about stuff like that, because that absolutely makes things very interesting. How are you guys dealing with, like what is the system in place for deep desert safety stuff? Like if I zone out of this instance, am I going to get 60 seconds? Am I zone out? Am I going to have time to run somewhere or teleport or something? Or is it going to be the kind of thing where, if I zone out and there's 5 people in a semicircle around me, well, here's my stuff, guys.
Yeah, if remember that you don't drop everything in PvP, right?
Yeah.
Like it's not a full loot game. So that's an important thing to remember. There's a 30-second timer on logout.
30 seconds.
Right? So if you try to log, yep.
Is that on zone as well?
30 seconds. No, because you can't zone from the deep desert. You have to go back through the PvE area to get out. So there's no time.
What about are the instances in the world? You don't zone in and out of the instances?
No, they're just part of the world. So just walk in the right. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like I think you probably ran through.
I think that the one I'm thinking of was the ship in the bottom part of the map that had you had to like get the key nearby and then that would pop it open. It was a little PvP area. So it's basically like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly that.
I'm sorry. I heard the word instance and was thinking, I apparently went on a big tangent that I shouldn't have gone down. Okay. I'm used to like traditional MMO, like separate zone instances. So that was a little confusing.
No.
That was totally my bad.
We have instancing only on the like overland map, right? The little map that you move around, and we only have that for the story stuff.
Okay.
Really. Right. We don't have instances in the deep desert. We don't have instances in the Haga Basin, right?
Perfect. So is there any initial plan to handle any type of player griefing in the deep desert?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, this is kind of why we have CS. Like, I think it's so Conan Exiles. When we launched Conan Exiles, we were a much smaller company. We've grown. We have now customer support. Just a little bit. We have customer support. We have customer service. Right. So people will be able to report briefing. People will be able to report things that are incidents like that are happening in the game. So yes, we will do things. We will probably. I don't know if it's clear. I think we have a policy for player behavior as well. Essentially, you could underline it as "Don't be a
dick." Yeah.
Essentially, but like But like, yeah, so people will be able to be reporting things like griefing. Everybody disagrees on what griefing is. So that's
I wasn't really going to go into it, but yeah, I was going to be like, so you guys are going to have public guidelines on exactly what griefing is and isn't, right?
I mean, it's impossible.
Exactly,
to do, right?
It is impossible. Yeah.
It's especially because like I give an example of something that happened in the closed beta that was kind of interesting, and I'm sure that the people involved in this will get mad at me for misrepresenting because I'm not 100% on the details. But like, someone got bugged and they could only respawn in the deep desert, and theoretically you should always have a checkpoint that you can respawn at in the southern part of the map. And they got bugged and they couldn't teleport out, right? And so they had to respawn at this one place, and there was a group of players who built a building around their respawn point. And then sort of laughed at them and made fun of them and kept killing them over and over again, and that's griefing.
That's the definition of griefing. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's something you would take action on that.
100%.
Cool.
And
okay.
Action
nice.
does get taken. So yeah, it's like so that kind of thing for sure. But like, and that's like, especially if like it's properly communicated to people. This is a bug. I'm stuck. Right? Like if you keep respawning at the same point over and over again, trying to kill people, and you have the option to respawn somewhere else, that's a different kind of kettle of fish. It's like people are killing me over and over, but I'm kamikazing trying to attack them. That's a different kettle of fish, right? So that's why I find these things, they're very difficult to moderate. It's very difficult to moderate player behavior, and players try to find ways around it. So that's why hard and fast explaining every rule of griefing to people would never work. It's why you need to use discretion, and that's why a human touch, like customer service, is probably the best way to deal with these things.
Awesome.
Yep.
Also, just random small thing I noticed. I loved that you guys showcased, because I did not catch the fact that I could just wheel in my bike, go into my storage, select my bike, and do it over. But one thing I did notice is that the quick deposit is when you're looking at a crate. Is there any way to quick deposit from a vehicle?
You can quick deposit to a vehicle. I don't think we have quick deposit from a vehicle to a crate, because we wouldn't know where the output would be.
Well, it would be on the storage. It was on the right side of the screen, right? Because you have the storage on the right side of the screen and then the vehicle on the left side of the screen.
You're talking about...
I'm talking about like if I drive in...
You're talking about once it's open.
Exactly,
once
yes,
the UI is
yes.
Because quick deposit's always done from the outside.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, we don't have that functionality set up. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was going to play your game, but maybe Dune Awakening 2 we could talk about. No, that's...
I apologize.
It's totally... Just the fact that you can do that is awesome. In fact, one of the things I talk about all the time is that one of my biggest pulls to this game is not only how much you guys are focusing on base building, but how much QOL is there. I was just playing another game recently, and like it actually frustrated me that my refiner that was making my bars, I had to go and take the bars out of the refiner over to the chest to use it. I was like, this isn't Dune.
Well, that's nice. Yeah. We have. That's actually one of the things I think Scott talked about it. Like just having a beta running and having people just complain. Is some of the best game dev feedback you get, because it's like I play the game and I whine about things. I'm whining about a couple of things now.
That's my job, dude. To play games and whine about them. Yeah,
but it's great, right? Like because it's like, oh yeah, like this is a really good idea. I think actually, I think I watched your stream. I'll confess, of the beta, and one of the things you said was like, why is quick deposit a hold? And I think it's a press now.
Yes, thank you. Oh, perfect.
It's like I was just like, yeah, well, guys, why did we do that? And they're like, yeah, no, that's true, and I think it just got changed,
dude.
A couple of days.
That is amazing.
That stuff is great.
Wait,
it's just fast, right? It's
right before the stream. Was that the thing you were talking about with Conan Exiles a long time ago?
No, the Conan Exiles thing is even better.
What is this?
This is
Let's hear some applause.
Or, I don't know. Maybe you'll think it's lame, but I think it's fun. I had never watched streamers in my life, right? Streamers were like 2016, 2017 was when it's Conan Exiles was our first game that had any streamers playing it, and I was watching you stream. Probably. Oh. No offense, because you were just like one of the more popular ones, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? I'll watch this. I think it might have been the first time I ever watched a streamer, and you were playing Conan Exiles. You came to this building through a Darfari camp that we'd built. You clicked, and we'd put a bit of voiced over lore in there. And I remember this so clearly because you were like, there's got to be a secret here. Funcom don't do stuff like this. They don't just like put stuff here. And you were looking around trying to find a way to find the secret. And I was sitting at my desk at work at the time watching going, oh, there's no secret there because it's like, there's nothing, it's like it was our early access game. And I was sitting watching and I was so frustrated on my end because like, when we made our first dungeon in the game, that location where you were frustrated and searching for a secret, I put in first dungeon entrance in Conan Exiles. You have to drag a character onto that spot and slit their throat. Their blood falls on the ground, and that opens the entrance to the dungeon. Because I could not live with the idea that we weren't living up to your standards. And you, it was.
I am honored to have elicited.
It was funny.
A throat slit, blood unlocked door. That's I think that's going on my resume, dude. That's amazing.
it was really cool. Yeah. So that was like
God,
that
was
total
6 years ago. 7. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And here we are now doing an interview on your brand new game that comes out in a week. Wow.
Yes.
That's very cool.
I didn't have gray hair then.
Yeah, I didn't either. We can commiserate together after this. Man, thank you so much. Joel Bylos, the creative director of Dune Awakening, coming out on June 5th for advanced access, or was it January or January 10th? June 10th. June 10th. I love Natasha. She's so good. June 10th for full release, June 5th for early access or advanced access, not early access. Big thank you, of course, Joel. It's been awesome. I would love, if you don't mind, like maybe we could do this again in a few months, like post-mortem, and talk about like what worked, what hopefully everything did, but maybe what didn't. We can talk about all that and how you guys are going to address it, all that fun stuff. But it was great talking to you, man. And thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for putting up with me.
Oh,
and,
please.
I really appreciate it.
This was a blast. Thanks, brother.
Yes.
That was awesome. That was so much fun. I tell you, man, you know what vibes I just had there? I just had total vibes of when we interviewed the Expedition 33 devs. Like it is such a different experience to do an interview, and you can just tell the person you're talking to loves what they do. It feels so good. Feels so good.